Hey everybody! I am so excited about this month's Hero Arts kit video. It is a vision of the Southwest like none you have ever seen, and as you all should know by now, I am a desert fiend. My favorite environment is the high desert in West Texas and New Mexico, and this kit and all the add-ons are really putting me in a desert state of mind, as you will see. I have many versions of many different cards to show you today, and a little technique for using the layering stencil that comes in the kit. So let's take a look. The kit comes with dies that match this incredible layering stencil. It has 4 pieces and they're numbered A to D, so you know what order to do them in. It also has a great little sentiment set that comes in the kit that is perfect for friendship cards, vacation cards, etc. So to begin with, I am going to use my sticky mat. This is always my friend with stencils, and I wanted to show you a little something different from what you're going to see on the blog hop today. This stencil has so many color possibilities, and you're not going to believe what the team has done with it. But I wanted to do a nighttime scene. So I'm actually starting with black cardstock, just for something a little different. And I'm marking on my sticky mat the little guides, the alignment guides that help you get the stencil in exactly the right place every time. To begin with, I'm starting with kind of a terracotta acrylic paint for the base layer, which is the A stencil. Now, when you are going to try the technique that I'm going to show you today, you want to work with a quick drying acrylic paint and you want to apply it in a very thin layer. Because this is a layering stencil, unless you just have a whole day to wait for your paints to dry, I recommend these little cosmetic sponges that have a really fine texture, so they apply the paint really, really smoothly. And also a fairly quick drying paint, just in the thinnest layer that you can possibly get on there while still achieving opaque color. So you can see how smoothly this is going on. Really, it ends up looking a lot like ink at the end of the day. It doesn't look like paint, and that is why. So I will just apply it around the cacti. The reason I like these little soft, fine sponges is they really get into the details. And when I go to do the last layer of this stencil, you're going to see exactly what I mean. So I will finish the last of these little stone formations and then give you the big reveal. It's so much fun. One of the reasons that I really like the sticky mat, even though I secured this with a piece of tape, is it holds my cardstock and my stencil so well. And when you have little details like the edges of these cacti, you want the stencil not to shift even a little bit. And if you've used layering stencils, you know that even a tiny shift gives you like this shadowing, blurry effect, and that's no fun. We don't want that. So now I am using the squares that I put onto my sticky mat with just a Sharpie to line up the stencil. And I'm using an orange paint from Dina Wakley. These are very fast drying paints and they are perfect for this technique. So I really, really love these. And I'm just going to apply these into, you can see these fine little details that these sponges get into. Like some of these are just like a pen line thickness and it works great. But it's just so fun to have like the dark background with this. Now I am going to mask off the clouds that go around the moon. See those highlights? Doesn't that look great? Because I actually want those to be white. So I'm just going to use some 3M tape to make sure that I don't get any orange paint in those as I'm finishing up the top of these rock formations. This little highlight is such a fun feature. It really looks great, especially in the nighttime scenes. And I'm not the only one who did a nighttime scene today, so you'll see a couple of these. But I just thought that it would be fun to show people how to use a stencil on black cardstock because I don't think that's something we think of very often, especially with layering stencils. We are all white cardstock obsessed when it comes to layering stencils, but look how great that looks. So now I'll do the opposite. I will tape off the rock formations so that I don't accidentally get white paint on those, and I will add a little bit of white paint to my craft mat and fill in those clouds. And you can sort of see now the negative space of the moon. So that will be in the next layer. And I wanted the moon to project that same color light onto the clouds. Now with the white paint, you might find that you need just a little bit more paint. You'll see that when I go to do the moon. And if that's the case and you need more paint, you'll see how I manage to keep that dry so I can just keep moving. I'm doing all of this in real time so you can see that each layer is dry before I go on to the next one, and this doesn't take very much time at all. Look at that, isn't that fun? And actually, I think the dark silhouettes of the cactus are fun all by themselves. I think you could leave that and it would be just fine, and it would look even more kind of spooky and night-like. Now this is actually an umber color with a greenish hue to it. It's going to look like I'm just putting black on top of black here, but I'm really not. And you're going to see when I lift that up that it actually shows up perfectly green against that black cardstock. So you have 5 of these little cacti to put in. And then we will do some highlights and the moon for the last step. But especially this green, I think, shows up so beautifully against that black cardstock and just really gives it such a moody feel. Now, when I went to do the moon, I wanted to leave like some little craters and some texture in the moon. So I didn't want it filled all the way in. I just wanted to make sure that I really defined the edges and left a little bit of texture. In order to do that, though, I did have to use a little bit more paint. So this is probably the wettest layer. And I just want to be careful not to mess that up when I go to put the final stencil on. So I'm sensing that here, and I kind of dry it a little bit with the stencil, and then I come to my senses and I use my hand dryer to just make sure that's completely dry. Because if that's smeared on that super crisp shape, I would be really super sad. So this is the last layer, and I'm using a lighter green for the highlights on the cacti. And this is where these sponges really go the distance and get into these tiny little crevices for the highlights of the little agave-looking plants and the cacti. So you can see how great that highlight looks. And just check your work. That's why I put the little tape hinge at the bottom. Just in case I missed a spot, I can check it and the stencil will still be in the same place when I put it back down. For something that has this much detail, you'll want to be pretty accurate with that. So look at that. Isn't that great? And the little highlights on the cactus and the rock formations is just so beautiful and perfect for a nighttime scene. So here's the finished card. I trimmed it down a little bit. And here's one that I did with acrylic sprays. That's probably my favorite. Then I had kind of a dirty stencil when I went to put the pink and purple down, and it warmed it up. I love it. Here I used an add-on to put a road through the scene. This is another add-on with some fun travel themed Route 66. Here's one with a Big Sur feel. Beautiful layering set. Just gorgeous. And then here's another stencil with another layering add-on for even more scenic possibilities. So head over to my blog for more information and a giveaway, and thanks so much for watching.